Summer 2026 is looking absolutely stacked. We've got superhero movies, Star Wars, Christopher Nolan's next epic, original sci-fi, and even a few movies that might end up being the surprise hits of the season. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Matthew, and this is CineGold. Let's kick things off with one of the summer's big action movies.
3, 2, 1.
This is In the Gray, the latest Guy Ritchie movie, the same guy who directed The Covenant and The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. In the Gray stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Henry Cavill as elite operatives tasked with taking back a huge fortune stolen by a ruthless tyrant. With Guy Ritchie behind the camera, you can probably expect fast dialogue, high energy pacing, and a cool style. If you like fast-paced action movies, In the Gray could be one of the more entertaining wildcards of the summer. It hits theaters on May 15th. But if In the Gray looks a little too slick for you, you could always check out the much bloodier and brutal Mortal Kombat II. This is the sequel and continuation of the 2021 movie about a fighting tournament that could decide the fate of their world. The big new addition this time is Johnny Cage, played by Carl Urban, which should bring a little more swagger and humor to the series. Early reviews are already saying it's better than the original, so if you enjoy brutal fights, over-the-top powers, in a movie that fully embraces the games, Mortal Kombat 2 might be a solid summer watch. It drops on May 8th. But maybe you're not a big fan of all the sequels and franchise movies that are coming out these days. Luckily, there are a few completely original movies dropping this summer, and one of the more intriguing ones is the new sci-fi mystery, The End of Oak Street.
How the hell is that even possible?
The End of Oak Street stars Ewan McGregor and Anne Hathaway as a family whose neighborhood is suddenly thrown to someplace unknown after a strange cosmic event. This is a David Robert Mitchell movie who directed It Follows. This is set in the 1980s and it seems to have some of that Spielberg sense of wonder. It could be one of those summer movies that comes out of nowhere and ends up being a big hit. Definitely worth keeping an eye on. The End of Oak Street hits theaters on August 14th. At number 7, we're looking at a dark version of one of the oldest legends in adventure storytelling. It's a new A24 film called The Death of Robin Hood, and it follows an older, battle-worn Robin Hood who is badly injured and haunted by his past. Robin Hood is played by Hugh Jackman and is being directed by Michael Sarnoski, the man behind the acclaimed movie Pig. Yeah, The Death of Robin Hood is not your typical blockbuster, but it's definitely one of the high-potential movies of the summer, and it's a nice adult alternative to Toy Story 5, which is dropping on the same day. The Death of Robin Hood is set to hit theaters on June 19th. Now we're really starting to get into the big stuff with our number 6 pick, Supergirl. This is the second major film in James Gunn's new DC universe, following 2025's Superman, and follows Supergirl who travels the galaxy with her dog on an interstellar journey of vengeance. Millie Alcock stars as this more cosmic, adventurous take on the character, rather than just a female version of Superman. Early buzz is saying this film feels more like a sci-fi epic than your typical superhero flick. Last year's Superman was a massive critical and box office success. Can Supergirl find a big audience as well? We'll find out pretty soon, as it's set to hit theaters on June 26th. And if you like keeping track of the movies that actually look worth getting excited for, make sure to subscribe to CineGold. I'm always sorting through the biggest upcoming releases, hidden gems, and streaming picks so you don't have to waste your time on the wrong movie. And speaking of sci-fi, there's still quite a few big sci-fi movies dropping this year. One of those is the upcoming post-apocalyptic film The Dog Stars. It's being directed by Ridley Scott and follows a pilot who has survived a devastating pandemic and now has to face off with roaming scavengers called Reapers.
It's just us trying to hold on to what was. And everyone else.
The Dog Stars is based on the 2012 Peter Heller novel, and it's a more emotional and quiet post-apocalyptic story rather than being about wild zombies and explosions. It stars Jacob Elordi, Josh Brolin, and Margaret Qualley, and is 88-year-old Ridley Scott's first sci-fi movie as a director since Alien Covenant. The Dog Stars looks like a blend of The Martian's isolation and Blade Runner's atmosphere. It's definitely a high-potential movie worth keeping an eye on. You can check it out in theaters in late summer, August 28th. But The Dark Stars is not the only sci-fi movie from a big-name director this summer. Steven Spielberg's next project is the upcoming UFO film Disclosure Day.
Today's.
Disclosure Day is about a weather reporter who accidentally broadcasts a message of extraterrestrial origin, pulling her into a massive cosmic conspiracy. This is a completely original screenplay written by Spielberg and David Koepp. He's reteaming with legendary composer John Williams, and it's been reported that it's using massive practical sets. It's supposed to be a more realistic, serious take on aliens and UAPs. Disclosure Day has all the pieces to be a huge summertime hit. I'm definitely watching this one in theaters. What about you? It will be dropping on June 12th. Then the top 3 movies on this list are absolutely ginormous. At number 3 is the first Star Wars film to release in 7 years, The Mandalorian Grogu. It continues the story from the show, but you can still watch this movie even if you're not caught up on the series. It's being made to be an entry point for people newly interested in Star Wars. It's apparently going to be much bigger than the show and worthy of the big screen, not just essentially a season 4. It's being directed by Jon Favreau, who also created the show and has been behind the camera for plenty of blockbusters, most notably Iron Man. It's the first Star Wars since The Rise of Skywalker. Do you think this one's worth checking out in theaters, or are you over Star Wars at this point? The Mandalorian and Grogu will drop very soon, May 22nd. Then for one of the biggest pure crowd pleasers to land this summer, there's Spider-Man Brand New Day. If you remember the last movie, the world has now forgotten who Peter Parker and Spider-Man is. Peter's now alone and has no connection to the Avengers or his friends and family. It's being called a hard reset and a back to the basics kind of movie, rather than the big cosmic stuff we've seen lately. It features some classic Marvel characters such as the Punisher and the Hulk. Tom Holland is set to star again. Spider-Man has been one of the few superhero characters who can really cut through the superhero fatigue. It's sure to be a huge crowd pleaser and big time hit. Spider-Man Brand New Day hits theaters on July 31st. And at number 1, we have the movie that might be the biggest cinematic event of the entire summer.
After years of war, no one could stand between my men and home. Not even me.
This is Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, one of the most famous adventure stories ever told, hitting theaters with a massive $250 million budget. Matt Damon stars as Odysseus, who faces a dangerous voyage back to Ithaca, meeting many dangerous and mythical creatures along the way. This is supposed to be a gritty and serious take on the classic poem, featuring high-end practical effects, an A-list cast, and is entirely shot on IMAX film, not digital, which is practically unheard of in this day and age. Christopher Nolan really makes his films to be watched in a theater, and with his last film Oppenheimer grossing nearly $1 billion, this movie has a ton of potential as well. I am definitely checking this one out in theaters. It premieres on July 17th. And before we wrap up, there are loads of other big movies dropping this summer that we didn't have time to cover. Masters of the Universe brings He-Man back to the big screen. Toy Story 5 is bringing back Pixar's most famous franchise. Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan Ghost War is one of the bigger streaming movies dropping this summer. It's on Prime. There's a new Evil Dead movie called Evil Dead Burn. The Devil Wears Prada 2 should already be out by the time you watch this. Scary Movie 6, which is just being called Scary Movie, drops this summer. And another live-action remake of a Disney movie, Moana, is also landing soon. Which movies are you excited to watch this summer? Are you going to see anything in theaters, or do you plan to wait for streaming? And there's already been some good stuff to drop in the first half of this year. Make sure you don't miss anything by checking out my video of the top movies of 2026 so far. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you again soon.